Constitutional Conversations is a series of discussions by America's leading scholars about the principles, framing, ratification, and implementation of constitutional government in the United States. This series is hosted by the James Madison Memorial Fellowship Foundation of Alexandria, Virginia.
And one of the reasons that I didn't, you asked earlier, go from 1788 to 1868 is not just that started the story too late, but I would have had to cram into a single book the epic story of the Civil War and its amendments. And it seemed to me that's so big that deserved its own separate book. Lincoln deserves, not to be an epilogue in a book about Washington and Jefferson and Madison, but deserved, in effect, his own starring role. It's conventional to think that Madison's the father of the Constitution. I respectfully differ. And I say, actually, when you think about it, it's obvious that it's Washington. He's not just father of his country, he's father of the Constitution, which is the two-dimensional representation of his country. It would be like the relationship between Tom Riddle's diary and Voldemort or something. The Constitution is Washington on the page, so to speak. So why is it Washington's Constitution? What's the evidence for it? Okay, so the process evidence is he goes to Philadelphia. He and Franklin are the only people that are actually have name recognition everywhere up and down the continent. People haven't heard of Madison outside of Virginia. He's the unanimously elected presiding officer, and people, when the document, he writes actually a letter when they come up with a plan. He writes the letter to the Confederation Congress explaining what they've done, and that letter is reproduced alongside the Constitution more than any other document other than the Constitution itself. People ratify it basically because Washington is vouching for it. His name comes first among the signatories. He's the unanimously elected president. Unanimously, every elector votes for him. He's unanimously re-elected president. He proposes actually in his first inaugural that a Bill of Rights be added. Okay, so that's the process. Substantively, the biggest thing about the Constitution that is new is its epically strong executive branch. The Constitution is basically a continental version of the state constitutions. The state constitutions from 1776 and then thereafter are written documents with bicameral legislatures, three branches, legislative, executive, judiciary, with juries, with actually judicial review of state by state courts of state constitutions. So all of that at the state level is just replicated at the federal level. Now, there are some little wrinkles. Pennsylvania is unicameral, Georgia is unicameral, but the U.S. Constitution is basically your generic state constitution, or slightly better. On each issue, they pick the best features of the best state constitutions. It's best state practices. They may not be aware that that's what they're doing in Philadelphia. They may think they're actually inventing things more, but what they're really doing is sifting, digesting, and synthesizing the state constitutional experience. This is a Brandeisian idea. States as laboratories, and now the federal Constitution is just going to be a model for that. And what do the people say when it's brought to when it becomes public? Dudes, you forgot the rights. Why would they say that? Because state constitutions had declarations of independence in places like Virginia and Pennsylvania, and the federal didn't. So the U.S. Constitution is basically just a counterpart of your generic state constitution, or if it's not, it's just best state practices on each issue, with one huge exception or maybe huge elaboration. The U.S. Constitution creates a massively more powerful chief executive than any state constitution has. That is not Madison's idea. Madison hasn't even thought about executive power, and he admits it. That's George Washington's idea. So this is a constitution designed by Washington for Washington, and it's not always evident because he gets what he wants sometimes without even having to say anything at Philadelphia. He's the presiding officer. He smiles. He frowns. He talks to people after hours. He gets everything he wants. Which is what? A really strong central government, because he's going to need that to protect against Britain, with a hugely powerful chief executive that has a 4-year term. No state constitution has that. Perpetually re-eligible, independently elected of the legislature. In 8 of the states, it's the state legislature that picks the chief executive, prime minister style, parliamentary style, with a veto pen in his own hand. Only Massachusetts has that, and it has a 1-year term of office, not a 4-year term of office. So powerful veto pen, powerful pardon pen, perpetual re-eligibility, independent election. He's going to pick, actually, his assistants. He's not going to be saddled with a council that other people pick for him. 4 years. Wow. Nothing like that exists in America. It takes the strongest features of the state constitution and adds them. To repeat, only Massachusetts gives its chief executive a veto pen. New York gives it to a certain council that's mainly a group of judges in combination with the chief executive. But this is Washington's Constitution, start to finish, procedurally and substantively.